Jezebel's body will be like refuse on the ground in the plot at Jezreel, so that no one will be able to say, "This is Jezebel." 2 Kings 9:37.
What on earth did Jezebel do to deserve this terrible fate? What were the deeds that earned her a reputation as one of the Bible's scarlet women?
Jezebel represents the import of alien worship into Israel. Did the Israelites worship foreign gods? They did. If they didn't worship foreign gods, the prophets wouldn't always yell at them to stop worshiping foreign gods.
In essence, Jezebel, a foreign woman marrying into a Hebrew royal family, bringing her pagan gods with her, created one of the greatest religious conflicts in the Old Testament.
The story of Jezebel and her husband, King Ahab, takes place in the 9th century in the northern kingdom in Israel. At this point, the united monarchy that existed for the first 3 kings, for Saul, for David, and for Solomon, has split up, and the north has gone its own way.
Going its own way, the northern kingdom of Israel sets up its own capital in Samaria. The Israelite king Ahab marries a foreign woman, a Phoenician princess named Jezebel, in order to make a political alliance.
During this time of Jezebel and Ahab, northern and the southern kingdom, or Israel and Judah, were in kind of sporadic conflict with each other. The worship life of the people at this time was apparently mixed.
The archaeological evidence is very clear that from the earliest time onward, many Israelites worshipped El, the old Canaanite male deity, and also Asherah, the mother goddess of ancient Canaan.
Thus, at the heart of Jezebel's story lies this question. As a foreign-born Israelite queen, how much responsibility should Jezebel bear for the Israelites' worship of foreign gods?
The Bible tells the story in such a way that we are to condemn Jezebel for her zeal for her religion. She tries very hard to establish serious cults of Baal and Asherah. It so happens that it's not the national religion of the country she is married into. And that puts her into conflict, of course, with the people who are zealous for the national religion of Israel.
Jezebel's main adversary is the Hebrew prophet Elijah.
Elijah went before the people and said, "How long will you waver between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him." 1 Kings 18:21.
On Mount Carmel, Elijah challenges all the priests from Jezebel's court to a tournament of miracles. Elijah triumphs and has all of Jezebel's priests slain. Furious, Jezebel orders Elijah put to death. Elijah manages to escape into the desert. The saga of Jezebel takes a dramatic turn.
The main story in the Bible that talks about Jezebel to the point where we really can know something about her character is the story of Naboth's vineyard. Naboth had a vineyard next to the king of Israel's. Ahab wanted the vineyard as an extension of his property and offered him money for it or a swap.
But Naboth replied, "The Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers." 1 Kings 21:29.
Ahab sulked about this, and Jezebel asking what was wrong, he said, "Naboth won't give me the vineyard." Didn't mention anything about the inheritance. Jezebel, a princess, used to absolute royal power, clearly thought this was insubordination.
So Jezebel writes a letter in Ahab's name, which falsely accuses Naboth of blasphemy. As a result, Naboth and his entire family are stoned to death.
When Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, he got up and went down to take possession of Naboth's vineyard. 1 Kings 21:15.
I would call Jezebel a scarlet woman. Here is a wicked woman who got what was coming to her. After all, she is the queen of Ahab, and Ahab is under a different set of rules that she doesn't seem to understand, or attempt to understand. And it's all well and good to say, if you're the king, you can make up your own rules, but to go kill an innocent man and take his property is a bad thing to do.
Were Jezebel's actions any different from the men in power of her day? Does she deserve her poor reputation?
There's blood on her hands. She's scarlet from that. She brought death upon an innocent man in order to get something for her husband. She's also a powerful queen with a different tradition who is loyal to her tradition. She did her job. Her job was to be a queen, to represent her nation, and she did that with pride and with courage. And when it proved to be the wrong thing in her host country, she faced the consequences.
In their continuing efforts to match the stories of the Bible to known history, scholars and archaeologists look for clues that might match the biblical text. If Jezebel did exist, is there any physical evidence of her life? And even more intriguing, is there any evidence at all of what was soon to come, her horrifying and unforgettable death?
As for other events of Ahab's reign, including all he did, the palace he built was inlaid with ivory. 1 Kings 22:39.
Jezebel's husband, King Ahab, was known for building palaces with lavish decorations. His own palace at Samaria was named the Ivory House for all the intricate inlay and carvings.
We do know something about the lives of kings and queens and the nobility at that time. We know one thing from the Bible about ivory palaces, for example, that this dynasty indulged in. We have remnants from Samaria and from that region.
Even today, one can visit the site and see the well-preserved style of masonry.
Surely these are royal buildings. There is no question, I think, that what you see today is a part of Ahab's palace.
So it seems perfectly possible that Jezebel and Ahab did exist. If so, what can be learned from her final days? For it is Jezebel's death, the final confrontation between herself and the Israelites, that has left an indelible imprint of Jezebel as a woman of evil. It is perhaps deserved, perhaps not.
There was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up. 1 Kings 21:25.
Elijah appears before Ahab, having learned of the death of Naboth, the man who is killed through the manipulations of Jezebel. Elijah prophesies that Ahab and all his descendants will be destroyed.
And also concerning Jezebel, the Lord said, "Dogs will devour Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel." 1 Kings 21:23.
Jezebel's greatest moment in history, it has to do with the way she faces her death. She knows that her entire family has been destroyed. the house of Ahab has been demolished by Jehu, a general who's been commissioned by a priest to precisely do that. And now he's coming towards her palace in the valley of Jezreel, and she waits for him. She waits for him by putting on her makeup, by fixing up with her hair, and by sitting at the window royally, not afraid, but rather very proud as a queen. She literally faces him.
When Jehu arrives, Jezebel does not ask for mercy. Rather, from her window, perched above, she contemptuously calls Jehu the name of a traitor.
He looked up at the window and called out, "Who is on my side? Who?" 2 or 3 eunuchs looked down at him. "Throw her down," Jehu said. So they threw her down, and some of her blood splattered the wall and the horses as they trampled her underfoot. 2 Kings 9:32.
Named The Woman in the Window, this work from the 9th century before the Common Era was a popular Phoenician ivory motif, often found at ancient sites in the Middle East.
Among the little pieces of ivory carving, there is one that shows a woman looking out the lattice of a window. And you can't help but think when you see that of the story of Jezebel looking out of the window, all of her makeup on, and seeing essentially her assassins on their way.
Another find from ancient Samaria, which seems to echo the account of Jezebel's final moments, is a small limestone pallet used for mixing cosmetics.
According to the biblical story, when Jezebel heard that Jehu was coming, she fixed her hair and she painted her eyes. And she may have used one of these little cosmetic palettes to mix the black eyeshadow that was much favored in antiquity.
Additionally, a semi-precious stone that was once set in a gold ring bears the name Jezebel. The seal can very well date back to the 9th century BCE and might be thought of as a ring belonging to Jezebel herself.
The name Jezebel is a rare name. It never occurs anywhere else in the Hebrew Bible, and it doesn't occur anywhere in our Phoenician sources as well. So to find a ring with the name Jezebel on it, perhaps is to be connected with the stories in the Bible.
Perhaps there is a reason the name Jezebel never appears again.
It's interesting to me that Jezebel is a sort of term, a word for a certain kind of woman. It's the kind of woman who gets out of her place, has too much influence over her husband, who is too aggressive, who is too scheming, and all those kinds of things. Her story is a nice one for people who don't like women that they think have gotten out of their place.
And so it is that, as Elijah prophesied, Jezebel's body is eaten away by dogs. Only her feet, her skull, and the palms of her hands remain. The image of Jezebel's death continues to intrigue us. It would seem a fitting end for one of the Bible's most hated women.